Let's be honest. If you're facing divorce, it can feel like you're just drowning, right? Legal stuff, emotions, money worries. It's a lot.
Oh, completely. That feeling of being totally overwhelmed, it's almost universal. I mean, divorce hits every part of your life, and trying to figure out the next step when you're right in the middle of it, it can seem impossible.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what we want to dive into today. How getting perspective from someone who's not only studied this stuff, but has actually been there, a really experienced divorce coach, how that can totally change things for you.
Right. And we're not just talking about, having someone listen, though that's important too. And legal advice is obviously critical. But a coach brings something different.
What's that exactly?
It's more about strategic guidance, but
Mm.
it's strategy that comes from a really deep personal understanding of what divorce actually feels like, what the pitfalls are.
Okay, so it's like getting a guide for a really, really treacherous path. So our mission today is to sort of unpack how that hard-won experience helps you shift gears. Moving from all the emotional turmoil,
Which is huge, obvious.
huge, and moving towards a more, I don't know, strategic, almost like a business plan for the separation.
That's a great way to put it. We'll look at why having that sort of co-pilot is so vital, how it can genuinely save you money, which is a big one, and just the overall benefits, maybe some you wouldn't expect.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So where do we start? The experience part.
Yeah, I think the lived experience is key. A lot of coaches, not all, but many, have been through their own divorces. They haven't just read about it. They've lived the uncertainty, the fights, the whole messy process.
Right, like we looked at Oscar's story. His own divorce was this 5-year saga, went through 8 lawyers. That's not theory.
Not at all. That's what you call learning the hard way. And that kind of intense, prolonged experience, it directly informs how they can help someone else.
Because they get it on a gut level.
Exactly. They understand the emotional traps, the practical hurdles in a way that, friends and family, even if they really care, usually just can't. They haven't walked in those specific shoes.
Oh, totally. Everyone means well, right?
Yeah.
But the advice you get, sometimes it's way off.
Definitely. You get the friend who's watched too many courtroom dramas saying, go nuclear, fight for everything.
Or the opposite, right? The relative who had a super easy, quick split and tells you, oh, just agree on everything, it's simple. When your situation is, well, not simple at all.
Yeah, we even saw that example where someone thought a basic $500 uncontested divorce was high conflict. It just shows.
The huge range of experiences.
Exactly. And why generic advice often just doesn't cut it and can even be harmful.
Okay, so that lived experience is crucial.
Yeah.
What about handling the emotional side? Because that initial phase, wow, intense.
It really is. The source material talked about this disconnected zone. You might feel completely done emotionally, like the marriage ended months ago in your head.
But legally and practically, you're just starting.
Right, and that gap, that disconnect, can be dangerous territory for decision-making. When you're full of hurt or anger, it's so easy to get sucked into the story of the divorce.
What do you mean by the story?
The blaming, the grievances, rehashing who did what to whom. You get bogged down in that narrative.
Instead of focusing on what?
Practical stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. The practical, strategic things you need to do. And that's where a coach really helps. They guide you to shift focus.
Moving from the story to the business of divorce, like you said.
Precisely. It's about separating the intertwined lives, the assets, the finances, in a planned, strategic way, almost like project managing your separation.
We saw that CHEAT sheet framework. Clarity, healing, empowerment, action, transition. Is that how a coach guides you?
Yeah, that's a good model.
Mm-hmm.
They use principles like those to give you a structure, a roadmap. Clarity means understanding the actual legal process. Healing is about managing the emotional fallout so it doesn't derail you. Empowerment is taking back control. Action is the practical prep work. Transition is looking ahead.
So it's about having a plan.
Absolutely, having a plan instead of just, winging it.
Yeah.
Which apparently is a really common way people approach divorce and often leads to, well, disaster. Which really highlights the need for that experienced sounding board you mentioned, that co-pilot.
It's so critical. Think about it. When you're in that storm, who do you talk to for unbiased strategic advice? Not just emotional support, not just legal points, but the overlap.
It's tough. Friends and family are there for comfort, hopefully. Lawyers handle the law. But there's that gap.
A huge gap. Friends mean well, but they don't know the legal nuances or the strategic plays. Lawyers are focused on the law, which is their job, but they're not usually equipped or paid to be your strategist or emotional guide through the whole thing.
So the coach steps into that gap.
Exactly. They're your advocate, your thinking partner, someone you can talk openly with without judgment, who understands both the emotional and the strategic landscape.
And that sounds especially important in really difficult divorces, like high conflict ones, maybe involving tricky personalities.
Oh, absolutely critical. Especially, say, if you're dealing with a narcissistic ex-partner. That presents unique challenges. Manipulation, control tactics, it's a different ballgame.
You need someone who gets those dynamics.
You really do. Someone with experience in those specific kinds of conflicts can provide invaluable insight and strategies that maybe a lawyer without that focus, or certainly friends, wouldn't have.
We saw some testimonials that hit this point hard. Ben Pingle calling the guidance life-changing for dealing with narcissism.
Yeah, providing clarity and hope. That's huge when you feel stuck in that kind of situation.
And Daya's comment about needing a seasoned guide for both the legal and the emotional strain, it really ties it together.
It does. It underscores that dual need, the practical strategy and the emotional navigation.
Okay, let's talk money, because divorce is expensive, period. How does coaching actually help mitigate those costs? Seems counterintuitive, maybe, paying another professional.
It does seem that way at first glance, but it's about preventing much bigger costs down the line. A coach helps you avoid costly mistakes early.
How so? Like what kind of mistakes?
Well, things like escalating conflict unnecessarily through poor communication, making rash decisions about assets out of anger, or even just not understanding the process and causing delays. All of that runs up the legal bill. A coach helps you be more strategic from day one.
And those legal bills, we saw figures like $250, $450 an hour, maybe more. That adds up fast.
Incredibly fast. So a coach can also help you understand the different ways to resolve things: negotiation, mediation, arbitration, court. They help you figure out which path makes the most sense for you, trying to avoid the most adversarial and therefore usually most expensive routes, if possible.
So guiding you towards maybe mediation instead of immediately jumping to a court battle.
Potentially, yes. Or helping you prepare better for mediation so it's more likely to succeed. It's about focusing your resources, including your legal spend, effectively.
We also saw something about unbundled legal help paired with coaching. How does that work?
Right. That's a smart strategy for managing costs. Unbundled means you hire a lawyer for specific tasks only.
Like just to review an agreement.
Yeah.
Or represent you for one hearing.
Exactly. Not for the whole case start to finish, which is full representation. You use the lawyer for specific legal expertise when you need it. The coach provides the overall strategy, helps you figure out when you need that specific legal input, helps you prepare for it, maybe even helps you find the right lawyer for that specific task.
Ah, okay. So the coach is like the general contractor overseeing the project.
That's a good analogy.
And you bring in the specialist, lawyer, plumber, or electrician only for the specific jobs they're needed for.
Precisely. It allows you to be much more strategic and targeted with your legal budget. And unfortunately, we also have to mention
What's that?
that some lawyers, though thankfully not the majority, might benefit from prolonged conflict. It means more billable hours.
That's a tough reality.
It is. A coach, being focused on your overall well-being and efficient resolution, can sometimes help you spot if things seem to be dragging on unnecessarily and help you navigate that, potentially saving you a lot of money and heartache.
Okay, so summing it up then, why do people benefit? What are the big takeaways?
I think it boils down to a few key things. Regaining a sense of control in a situation that feels out of control. Getting clarity on the process and your own goals. Building confidence in your decisions, reducing that crushing stress and anxiety.
And, as we just discussed, potentially saving significant time and money.
Absolutely. And achieving a smoother transition into your next chapter. It's about navigating the whole thing more effectively.
And it's not just for the nightmare divorces, right? Even amicable ones could benefit.
Definitely. Even if you and your ex are generally on good terms, divorce is still complex. There are still emotions, financial decisions, legal steps. Having that objective, knowledgeable support can smooth out bumps, even in simpler cases.
It helps to remember that a lawyer isn't a coach. Different roles.
Critically different roles. Your lawyer handles the law. Your coach handles the strategy, the emotional navigation, the preparation, the overall journey management. They complement each other.
Yeah, like that quote from Ryan H. He used Oscar's book like a textbook alongside the coaching. It sounds very practical, very action-oriented.
It absolutely is. And while divorce is tough, no doubt about it, it can also be, strangely, an opportunity.
An opportunity. How so?
For self-discovery, for growth. You learn a lot about yourself, your resilience. A coach is kind of a guide through that transformation too, helping you not just survive the divorce, but maybe even emerge stronger.
That's a really powerful way to think about it.
Yeah.
So the final thought for you listening, as you navigate this, or if you know someone who is, just consider this. What difference could it make to have someone in your corner who truly gets it? Someone who's walked this path, understands the legal maze, the emotional roller coaster, the financial pressures.
Think about how that perspective could shift your whole experience, not just saving money, but reducing stress, boosting your confidence, helping you make smarter strategic choices, and ultimately empowering you to really step into your future.
What steps could you take, maybe starting today,
Yeah.
to find that kind of experienced guidance for yourself? Something to definitely think about.